You named pretty much most of them that are on the market right now.
And what they are is an expanded, it's just basically like a barrier between the cold and the warm.
Mm-hmm. And
Whichever
the thicker it is.
And the thicker it is, they come up with a resistance value.
Mm-hmm.
How resistant is that to keeping the heat on one side and the cool on the other?
To temperature transfer.
Exactly. This time of year, we're only focused in one mode. We're focused in how do we keep the heat in.
Mm-hmm.
But this product, in addition to keeping heat in, also it basically keeps heat on one side of it,
Exactly.
whether it's summer or winter.
Yep. It isolates temperature extremes.
That's an excellent way to word it. So the bottom line, though, for this to be successful in a remodel or a retrofit situation, access is probably a very difficult thing.
Definitely can be.
I know you and I talked about this on the program here, what was it, almost 8 months ago or so?
Yes.
And I have contemplated how to have you do that to my garage and attic area.
Mm-hmm.
And my biggest hiccup is access.
Mm-hmm.
What do you do in a home where you have no access? Let's not even talk about a garage for a second. Let's just talk about a single or 2 or 3 story home that has an attic that is unfinished but inaccessible.
Well, that's a problem. I mean, I can't do anything really.
At that point, you'd have to figure out a good place between the joists and cut in some sort of a pull-down staircase.
Well, yes.
And that way you would have access.
Mm-hmm.
Now, what do you do with all the insulation that is up there now? The older, maybe the blown-in cellulose or whatever insulation is in an attic. Do you leave it?
In most applications, we leave it. We do recommend that once we've spray foamed an attic and insulated it properly, that you could have that stuff vacuumed out. There are companies that do that. But really, I mean, in most applications, it's just left there.
And it probably helps with a little bit of sound transference.
It does. That's the primary reason I say to leave it, if
Right.
it doesn't bother the people.
Okay. So what we're talking about now in insulating is we're insulating the entire exterior portion of the home. So if we were to start with the exterior wall, it's very similar to where the insulation is located now. It goes between the boxing and the interior finish, whether it's sheetrock, whether it's lath and plaster, whatever is encompassing both sides of that exterior wall stud, that's where you're spraying the foam, and that's where people are used to having insulation to start with.
Mm-hmm.
In a retrofit or a remodel situation, there are people that go in and drill holes and blow that cellulose in these holes.
Mm-hmm.
If you were to spray foam in an existing exterior wall, you would need to completely open that wall up from either the inside or the outside, correct?
Correct.
And opening it up from the outside is probably cost prohibitive unless you're replacing siding, and then you would have to do it in stages because that exterior sheeting is your wind bracing also.
Yes.
So the simple thing to do would be to remove the wall finish on the inside.
Correct.
Do you do just one room, or do you do as many rooms as someone would want? Is one room too small of a project for you?
It can be, but there is a tremendous benefit, so we're willing to work with people on small projects like that.
I know a lot of folks, I've gotten some emails, and actually we're right in the middle of a series that I've been doing called the Cost versus Value Summary. And it's put out by Remodeling Magazine, a division of Hanley Wood, and they take a series of popular remodeling projects. They write up a pretty specific project scope, and it tells the approximate cost to have that project executed in our area, Wichita, Kansas being the closest in the middle of the state of Kansas that they actually surveyed. And then it also gives us a number of what that cost you would expect to recoup if you sold the home within 1 year of doing that work. And you know, it's been a really, really popular segment. And today we're taking a little time away from that. We're going to still hit on some of that today here on the program. But we really need to talk about this insulation because of just basically the time of year that we're in. Mm-hmm. We've talked about the exterior in a remodel situation. Let's talk about the exterior above the wall. The change in focus is you're not insulating the ceiling.
No.
You're insulating the rafter cavities.
Absolutely.
And you're sealing the bottom of the roof deck.
Mm-hmm.
So there is no more attic access that has to be ventilated.
Correct.
We've increased the ability for the attic for a good place for storage.
Absolutely.
Storage in an attic with the old thinking insulation was very difficult to do because you had to consider what was going there. Can it freeze? Can it get very, very hot?
Exactly. Yeah, you basically cannot insulate most rafter cavities with the status quo, the typical insulation products. You can't insulate well enough to make those rooms in those attic spaces, reasonable temperature-wise in both the winter or the summer.
Exactly. And with this product, it's sealing. It's complete. It's creating a complete barrier. Okay. So the next thing we want to talk about is what to do with existing roof penetrations. Vent pipe flashings. We want to talk about turtle vents, turbine vents, those kinds of things. Stay with us when we come back more with Russ Faust and Sunflower Spray Foam right here on Around Your Kansas Home. We are back on Around Your Kansas Home, sponsored in part by iView Security, Swims and Sweeps, Pella Window and Door, White Star Machinery, your Bobcat dealer, and Carpet Plus in Topeka. Still with us in the studio, Russ Faust with Sunflower Spray Foam. Russ, again, I appreciate you taking time on a very chilly Saturday to be with us.
Thank you very much for having me.
Well, not a problem. Right before commercial break, we promised we were going to talk about the differences in the attic area. And we talked briefly about the fact we're not insulating the ceiling joist bay anymore. Now we're sealing the rafter cavity. We've increased storage space in the attic because now that's a tempered or maybe a conditioned space. And we have improved, even by gaining that space, we have improved the efficiency of the home because of the heat loss that we were getting through the old style insulation. Let's talk about roof venting and what we do with that. Old school thinking was the key to a happy attic was insulation and ventilation. Now we no longer have that attic to get humid. We no longer have that area up there. We have spray foam directly against the roof decking. So this would bring me to the question that's going to come up with everyone. What about the need for ventilation? What about the need for vents, turbines, attic fans, and also the ridge vents that are common in shingling?
Very, very common. Well, the most pronounced difference between closed cell spray foam and every other product on the market is that when we apply it right there, you no longer need venting. We do create an unvented attic assembly. It no longer gets hot in the summer, therefore you don't need to vent.
Okay. What about humidity control from things like vent fans in a bathroom?
Those vents must be vented to the outside.
Okay. So let's say you have an existing turtle vent, turbine vent. There's all kinds of different names for them. Your plan would be to totally seal that up, and before doing that, you could run a pipe outside to vent, let's say, the exhaust from the bathroom vent fans.
Exactly.
Okay. What about the difference between, what's the word I'm looking for here, R value and insulating value? What kind of a recoupment on investment or savings do you typically talk about with spray foam over standard insulation?
I'm seeing anywhere between 30 and 50% increase in efficiency or savings every single month by people that use spray foam in their attics.
Wow. And is that attics only or attics and walls as well?
Well, I don't do many walls because of the limitations. I must have an open bay. New construction, you're going to see a
new
dramatic
construction.
improvement.
Yeah, absolutely. New construction, you're going to build a completely tight structure.
Yep, a full envelope.
One other area that would be substantial, it seems to me, for spray foam would be last week we talked about the cost versus value survey on basement finishing. Taking an unfinished basement with concrete, rock, brick, stone walls of some type, and putting 2x4 wall framing out in front of those walls. Tell me the benefits of spraying those framed walls with the spray foam and going back and actually sealing back to the concrete.